What is one lie you must keep up that you hate, but it covers up a much bigger frick up? Years ago, I was partying with a college friend at a bar in New Orleans where he lived right out of school, in a big group, and his car was stolen. Years later he confessed to me that he decided to leave the bar early, accidentally drove into a swamp, and walked away from his vehicle as it descended into the muck. He then walked back to the bar and hung out the rest of the night, only to act surprised when his car wasn't there. The vehicle recovered 2 weeks later and insurance paid it off in full. The guy is now an attorney, investigating corporate fraud. Holy crap, the irony. This is probably one of my favorites I've read so far. Why don't you travel? Or even just go down to the USA for a day trip? Gas is cheaper down there, blah blah. I live in Canada just on the other side of the border. I have to make all kinds of excuses like trying to save money by not going on vacations, not having a passport yet, having prior obligations plans, stuff like that. The real reason, I've got a criminal record. My uncle died of a drug overdose, not of the cardiac arrest my mom's family insist we tell as the official story. I know how you feel, man. My aunt shot herself in the head in an assisted living place. We don't really tell anyone the truth. It's too shocking for most people to deal with. When I was a kid I chased my little brother outside with a spoon. Once we got outside he got on top of our car and started yelling. No clue why I was chasing him with a spoon or why I cared about him yelling. After he wouldn't get down I threw the spoon at him aiming for his stomach. Trying to avoid it he ducked and it hit him in the face right next to his left eye. After he calmed down I took him back into the house and told my mom he fell. He was hurt pretty bad. The spoon didn't just barely hit him. It caused permanent damage to that eye that he had to deal with for years. He wasn't blinded or anything but his vision was impaired. He was too young to remember. I'm 3 years older than him. That it was my fault so he doesn't know it was me. Not the biggest lie ever cause we were both kids and I didn't do it on purpose but it's still pretty crappy to know that I did that to someone. My girlfriend and I were sitting around visiting with a bunch of friends. She was sitting on my lap and someone else was talking, so no one was looking at us. All of a sudden I felt my girlfriend seize up as she stifled a sneeze. Unfortunately, holding back the sneeze caused her to rip a massive fart. The fart was so huge that every head in the room turned towards us with a look of shock and awe on their faces. I just smiled sheepishly and said, "Excuse me." All the guys cracked up and the girls feigned disgust until the aroma hit their nostrils. It was a rancid vulgar odor that cleared everyone out of the room. The group had a few good laughs and made fun of me for years for that fart. That's okay. That night, and many nights thereafter, I was amply rewarded for chivalry. Haha, my boyfriend did something similar once. I fell asleep at a friend's house while we were all hanging out. Apparently I let out a silent but deadly in my sleep and my boyfriend, whose lap I was using as a pillow, took the blame. People like you guys are the best. The reason why I'm going to community college this year isn't because it's cheaper. It's because I failed out of the well-respected state school that my Asian parents paid $35,000 for last year. 1. Join a study group. 2. Have wacky and zany adventures that reference pop culture. My mom didn't actually die of cancer. She died of HIV and I'm the only one of 5 kids, and my aunts, that know the actual truth. I keep telling my sister it's not a good idea to get a cancer ribbon tattoo but she doesn't get why. Try sending her links about how the ribbon is just a brand and if I recall correctly a pretty much stolen idea. So it's more about just not wearing the ribbon not supporting cancer memory of your mom. That I've never been in a relationship. Nobody knew I was in one, or would have approved. It was with a much older woman, and it turned out a devastating disaster for both of us. When I was 15 and only had a driver's permit, I fell asleep behind the wheel and rolled the truck I was driving. My mom was asleep in the passenger's side and luckily we were not injured. She ended up telling the cops it was her driving since I would have been impossible to insure when and if I did get my license at 16 years old. It's not really a story that comes up often, but I have always felt terrible that it went on her driving record. Ever since that accident I've made it a point to be a safe driver and 8 years later have not been in another car wreck. Knock on wood. It sounds more like your mom's fault for not supervising you. If she was asleep in the passenger seat, I'm guessing it was probably to be expected that a 15-year-old new driver would struggle to keep themselves awake behind the wheel. My girlfriend is mildly allergic to many commonly consumed foods and ingredients, which results in some pretty extreme gas. She's very sweet and doesn't want to seem picky about what she eats when with other people, so she doesn't normally say anything. I always take the blame for her farts at the dinner table. I had a longboarding accident a year ago and I ended up injuring myself pretty badly. I got tendonitis in my ankle from a previous complication, bursitis in my hip, and I needed 8 stitches in my face. My boss would always tell me, you know, one day you're gonna fall off that thing and seriously injure yourself. So I lied and said I fell while chasing a dog down a hill. Now he kind of pities me and lets me take it easy if my hip starts to act up. Went to my aunt's house for Thanksgiving and she asked me to set the table. Apparently, I did it wrong because she asked me if I was left-handed. I said yes instead of admitting that I don't know how to set a table. From that point on, she made several comments about left-handedness and even made sure to orient objects to accommodate me. I had to pretend to use my left hand for the rest of the trip, and to this day, she still believes that I am left-handed. For what it is worth, your aunt sounds like a very nice woman for accommodating your false left-handedness. My husband and I were spending a few days with my dad and stepmom at their house, and we were hanging out downstairs when I go upstairs to change clothes. My husband runs up a few minutes later to use the bathroom. Since he is in the guest bathroom, I use the one in the master bedroom. When I come out, my husband is standing in the doorway of the guest room, silently and frantically motioning for me to come over. When I get in the room, he says, "Dude, I clogged the toilet and it won't flush. You have got to find a plunger." So I'm looking around upstairs, but can't locate one. I tell him I'll have to go down and ask my dad where they keep it, and he begs me to take the blame to save him the embarrassment of clogging my parents' toilet with his massive poops. When I ask my dad where the plunger is, he gives me a weird look, and I tell him that I accidentally clogged the toilet. Him and my stepmom go on a scavenger hunt for one, but come up empty-handed. My stepmom is like, "I don't think we have a plunger." WTF? Who doesn't keep a plunger for those unexpected moments? Great. Now what, my husband is still hiding in the guest bedroom. Since no plunger can be located, my stepmom gets a yardstick from her craft room and proceeds to the bathroom to unclog the toilet. She freaking chops my husband's poop into enough tiny pieces to flush the toilet with a freaking yardstick, giving me looks. Dad, too. My husband emerges from the master bathroom, toilet flushing in the background. "What's going on?" I told him I clogged the toilet, and he starts laughing, and my parents start teasing me, making poop jokes and talking about how they're going to have to get my stepmom a new yardstick because I've destroyed the one she had. Yeah, my husband still owes me for that one. We laugh about it to this day, and my parents still bring it up in public. I had been wanting a kitten for a long time, so one of my staff girls gave me one. She was adorable and well behaved, and I was extremely happy. A couple months later, I had to go out of town and asked my parents to take care of her while I was gone. The day before I got back, I got a phone call from my dad saying she had accidentally gotten underfoot and he had accidentally stepped on and killed her. Now, the girls ask about Aphrodite all the time and I haven't had the stomach to tell them the truth. That's so sad. I'm sorry. I once worked at a large store and walked up to a co-worker to ask a question. I must have startled her. BC, as I was asking, I noticed a weird look on her face and suddenly realized that she was peeing herself. I pretended not to notice and made some excuse to leave and came back a little later to see her mopping it up. I said, "Did a customer spill another drink again?" and wandered off. I told all my co-workers that a customer had spilt soda all over the floor in her department. I think that's called being a good friend. Had to say that I lost my virginity to some random girl at 15 when I really lost it at 16 with my mother's best friend. I knew pee was real. My family has too many wiener dogs and a lab. The lab is only a year old and doesn't know how much bigger she is than the two wieners. When I was calling all the dogs inside one day, the lab slammed into one of the wieners and ended up breaking her leg. Now, My dad is the least understanding butthole in the world, so my brother, my mom and I decided to tell him that I had accidentally tripped over the wiener dog and broke her leg, since we've all tripped over the little dogs before. We knew he wouldn't have gotten rid of the lab if he knew the truth. He still tries to make me feel horrible about breaking my dog's leg, even though it's just a lie we told him, because we all know what a huge butt he is. I screwed up university. I had some medical issues to begin with, and then I got lazy and had no idea what I was doing when I came to. And now I can't go back. I have to come clean soon, but I can't bear the shame. Nor do I have any idea of how to tell my parents. I was in the same situation a year ago, my friend. Moderate depression, apathy, general laziness. I blew a full ride scholarship because I didn't try at all. Eventually I just told my parents I fricked up and needed to move back home. It's been a hard year of full-time work self-improvement, but I'm much better for it. Just tell them, man. My wife and I were at my parents' house helping them organize things in the attic. My wife slipped at one point and stepped right through the bedroom ceiling. I picked her back up and I could hear my parents yelling, "What was that? What happened?" She started crying because she's always trying to impress my parents. So I yelled down, I stepped through the ceiling. Sorry, and took the blame. Years later, my family still makes fun of me for the incident. I just look over at my wife and wink. I'm not even your wife and I love you for that. I would probably beat myself up about that forever. My parents think I'm working 6 days a week and out with friends on my days off. In reality, I'm at therapy and doctor's appointments trying to sort out my depression. I've been putting on a fake smile for months and months. I don't think any family or friends have noticed that there's something wrong. I came up with a lie so I wouldn't have to go to my sister's friend's surprise party. I told her I had some homework to finish up that was due that night. There was no assignment. I just didn't feel like going. My sister came over and said I should at least sign the card. My sister then very strongly suggested that her friend really likes me. So now I do want to go, but I already told the lie. So now I backtrack saying that the assignment was almost done and I could turn it in now for a 90. I go to the party. We hook up 3 days later and I'm still dating her. The annoying part is whenever anyone tells the story of how we got together, they say that I got a lower grade on an assignment so I could see her. I really want to correct it, but there is no graceful way I can think of to do so. Let it go. The lie is now reality. I work as a bar manager, and both my boss and I are military vets. Actually, that's mostly how I got the job. We struck up a conversation and I discussed my time in the service, except that my 6-year enlistment ended at around 3 years, 2 months. I didn't go while UA or drink myself stupid. Mostly, I would oversleep and I was a shithead in my early 20s. Not my finest hour. I left with a general discharge, so I still had college paid for in Texas, but very few know about this. I couldn't reveal this, and honestly, the lie has manifested into the status quo. Everything I have had been predicated upon a lie. My jobs, my girlfriend, who's a veteran, and even a good amount of friends have no clue. Not me, but my roommate freshman and sophomore years at college was put on academic probation for failing and lost her full ride scholarship. She was too afraid to tell her parents, so she started stripping to pay tuition. Last time I talked to her, she never finished college, is still at the strip club, and her parents still think she's a graduate that just can't find a job. I worked at my dad's company when I graduated from college. I spent 2 years there. I tell people that I quit because it was essentially a dead end for me, and that I needed to move on. And while that was true, that wasn't why I quit. I texted a bunch of people an inappropriate message as a joke, one of whom was a co-worker of mine. She told our supervisor, and said she now wasn't sure she felt comfortable working around me. The supervisor could tell that it was a joke and a misunderstanding on the co-worker's part, but we both agreed that I was out of line. My dad found out later that day. The next day I went in and gave my 2 weeks notice. I said that any action not resulting in my leaving could potentially be construed as favoritism, and I didn't want to risk my father's position, and thus my brother's tuition and mother's alimony, on a silly mistake at a job I had outgrown. The only people that know what really happened are my co-worker, my supervisor, her supervisor, and my dad. Everyone else thinks I just got sick of the job and left. You have integrity. Seriously, you owned up to a mistake and faced the consequences. And what's possibly even more important, you learned from it. You are a quality person. Integrity, a rare gift. Don't ever lose that. I was over my girlfriend's house and things were getting sexual between us since we were alone in the basement. We start making out and she's touching me all over. Then she starts touching my penis and after a while I feel a sharp pain followed by a lot of blood. She then starts freaking out because there's blood all over the pillow for the couch and because I'm leaking blood all over. I decided to go take a shower and tell her parents I did it cleaning myself in the shower. They kinda believed it and her dad looked at my penis to make sure I was okay. And her dad looked at my penis to make sure I was okay. Double quote. Blink, blink. One of mine is why I ended up leaving college. I left college my sophomore year due to losing my scholarship. However, I lied about why I was leaving, saying I needed time off and I had to help my mom with financial issues. Luckily in my time away I was able to get back into my school, unfortunately a year and a half later. Lots of people frick up. The key is, do you fix it? You have spotted this beautiful tasty sea of bacon. You can have as much as you want as long as you subscribe in the next 22 seconds. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.